There's a moment in life when we stop making choices and start making exchanges. But the scary part, it doesn't come with warnings. No loud alarm bells, no epic music in the background, just silence and a small, quiet surrender. You won't even realize it. One morning, you'll choose distraction instead of discipline. You'll scroll instead of speak. You'll nod, smile, say, I'm fine, when everything inside is screaming for something real. You'll call it being tired. You'll say, I'm just trying to get by. But what you're really doing is trading pieces of your future for a tiny dose of relief. Arthur Schopenhauer saw it coming. He didn't write about happiness, he wrote about suffering. He understood something dark, something true. Most people aren't chasing joy, they're running from pain. And to avoid that pain, they sell off their peace, their truth, their focus, just for a moment of numbness. They anesthetize themselves with comfort, distraction, and lies. But this video, it's not about judging you. It's not about blame. It's about seeing the deal you made, the one no one talks about, the one where you trade long-term strength for short-term stillness. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because today we're going to tear down the myth that comfort is always good, that scrolling is harmless, that late night snacks are just a treat, that staying silent is the strong choice. We're going to expose the cost, the real price we pay when we trade our time, our truth, our talent for things that feel safe, but leave us empty. You're about to hear stories that hit hard, ones that might sting a little, but that's good, because growth doesn't come from pretending. It comes from facing the parts of you you've been running from. So let me start with someone, not a celebrity, not a hero, just someone like you. They woke up already tired, eyes heavy, heart heavier. The alarm had been snoozed 3 times, not out of laziness, but because life had become a loop that didn't light them up. They rolled out of bed, already holding their phone. Messages, alerts, distractions. The dopamine hit was instant, and just like that, they were gone. The day had barely begun, and already they'd given away the most sacred thing they had, their focus. They weren't hungry, but they ate. They didn't want to, but they said yes. They didn't laugh, but they pretended to. And by the time the sun dipped down, they had traded almost everything for nothing that truly mattered. Philosophical punch, Schopenhauer reference. Schopenhauer once said, a person can do what they will, but not will what they will. Which means you think you're choosing, but you're not. Most of your choices? They're just reactions to pain. Pre-programmed, predictable, powerless. You think you're relaxing, but you're hiding. You think you're protecting your peace, but you're guarding your prison. Let that sink in. Because the lie we've been sold, that life should feel good all the time, yeah, that lie is exactly what's keeping you from ever feeling truly alive. We've been taught something backwards, that if something feels hard, we should avoid it. If it's uncomfortable, it must be wrong. But here's the truth they never told you. Discomfort isn't your enemy, it's your compass. Growth doesn't live in ease, it lives in friction, in that space between who you are and who you could become. Yet what do most people do with discomfort? They run, they sedate, they numb. We reach for sugar when we should be reaching for silence. We scroll instead of sit. We binge instead of breathe. Because stillness? It's too loud. And the mirror? Way too honest. We've been conditioned to believe that feeling bad is a problem, instead of what it actually is. The very first sign that you're waking up. But you won't believe what people trade for comfort until you realize you've been trading too. People give away their time, the one thing they'll never get back, for 2 hours of hypnotic scrolling that leaves them emptier than before. They give up their voice, silencing their truth in fake, polite conversations that should have ended years ago. They trade their self-worth, that quiet confidence in who they are, for validation from people who barely even know who they are. And the worst part, they don't even realize it's happening. Because comfort always lies. It tells you, this is just one time. You'll get serious tomorrow. Everyone's doing it. But here's what comfort never says. Every time you say yes to it, you're saying no to something that matters. No to energy, no to truth, no to ambition, no to the version of you that's messy, wild, unstoppable, and finally alive. Let me tell you a story. There was once a kid who loved to draw. Hours would pass in silence as their pencil traced dreams onto paper. But somewhere along the way, life started whispering, that won't pay the bills. That's not practical. So they stopped. Not because they didn't love it, but because choosing passion meant facing discomfort. Now they're 34. They've got a job, a house, a car, Wi-Fi, and a dull ache that something's missing. Every time they pass an art supply store, something stirs, but they keep walking. Because there's no time. Because dreams were just a childhood thing. Because comfort. And the real tragedy? It's not that they stopped drawing, it's that they stopped dreaming. You see, comfort doesn't just steal your time, it steals your truth. It convinces you it's safer to go numb than to feel, safer to hide than to be seen, safer to quit than to be misunderstood. So you start making deals, quiet ones, the kind you never write down. I'll stay at this job just until I figure things out. I'll start tomorrow. It's not that bad. But the ache inside you, it knows. It always knows. And if you don't interrupt the pattern, you will wake up one day having sold your entire life to comfort and realize you never actually lived. Final thought. If this feels uncomfortable to hear, good. That means it's working. Because you weren't born to live a life that feels like anesthesia. You were born to feel, to struggle, to rise, to wake the hell up. You weren't meant to tiptoe through life just to arrive safely at death. You were meant to feel, to fail, to bleed, to break, to rise. So before you click away, before the algorithm steals you back, ask yourself one simple, dangerous question. What have I been trading just to feel comfortable? Because once you find the answer, everything changes. And don't worry, we're not done. We're just getting started. What's coming next will take you deeper into the invisible trades that shape your life, the ones you didn't even know you were making. Here's what no one warns you about. When you finally see those trades for what they are, the first thing that hits you is rage. Not at others, not even at the system, but at yourself. It's that slow-burning anger of realizing you gave up years of your life in exchange for the illusion of peace. You start replaying every fake smile, every forced laugh, every time you said yes when your soul was screaming no. Every conversation you should have ended. Every room you stayed in out of politeness. Every truth you swallowed so you wouldn't make waves. And that sting, that pain, it rewires you because for the first time, you're not distracted. You're awake. But here's the next trap. And yeah, Schopenhauer saw this coming too. Awareness can become its own addiction. You start collecting truths like trophies. You analyze, you read, you reflect. You feel so seen, but you never act. Because action is where it hurts. Action is where the rubber hits your ruined comfort zone. It means deleting apps that feel like friends but are actually dopamine slot machines. It means saying no to that party not because you're antisocial, but because your peace matters more than someone else's opinion. It means sitting in a room alone with nothing but your thoughts and choosing not to run. That's not romantic. That's raw. That's brutal. But also, that's liberation. Every comfort has a cost, and every discomfort has a reward. Most people flip the script. They pay for ease and never get the gift of growth. But what if you flipped it back? What if you saw discomfort not as punishment, but as the price of admission to everything real? Real friendships, real creativity, real purpose. Because people don't just trade their time for comfort, they trade their identity. The second you start worshiping ease, you begin designing your life to avoid friction. You become agreeable when you should be honest. You become small when you should be wild. You become predictable when you were born to be profound. And the worst part? It all happens quietly. You're still smiling, still producing, still fine. But inside, you feel it. The ache. It's in the way your eyes light up when someone finally sees you. It's in the breath you hold when an old song reminds you of who you used to be. It's in the envy you feel when someone walks away from a life that looks just like yours and finally chooses freedom. Let's be real. People don't envy success. They envy courage. The courage to walk away, to speak up, to sit in silence and not numb it, to say, this isn't me anymore, even if they don't know what comes next. And that hits hard because deep down, you know that power lives inside you too. But here's where it gets dark. Comfort isn't passive. It fights back. It will guilt trip you. Whisper in your ear, you've come too far to walk away now. This is as good as it gets. Other people would kill to have your problems. And the worst part? Sometimes those words aren't even lies, but they're still poison if you drink them without question. Let me tell you a real story. There was a nurse. She worked in palliative care, holding hands with people in their final moments. When she asked them what they regretted most, it was never money, never fame, never even failure. They said, I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not the one others expected of me. Translation? They traded authenticity for comfort, and they paid with their existence. So breathe. This isn't about shame. It's about choice. You don't have to burn it all down. You don't have to quit your job, leave your partner, or move to the mountains. But you do need to ask yourself, what am I trading for ease? What pain am I avoiding that could actually change me? What truth have I buried that I no longer even remember? And maybe most importantly, what would happen if I stopped hiding? Because comfort will always offer you something, a soft landing, a little hit of numbness, a way to pretend. But pretending? That's not living. Right now, there's a flicker in you. Barely a flame. But it's real. It's asking questions you're scared to answer. And discomfort? It doesn't care about your timeline. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It demands something raw that you feel. The sting of being misunderstood. The ache of sitting alone while everyone else pretends. The sharp taste of failure in your mouth when no one's clapping. If you can feel that fully, then you unlock something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Clarity, conviction, power. Not the loud kind. Not the shout from the rooftops, look at me kind. But the kind that knows. The kind that moves silently because it doesn't need validation. This This is what Schopenhauer was trying to whisper beneath all that pessimism. He wasn't saying happiness is a lie. He was saying, stop chasing the sugar high. Start building an inner world so aligned with truth that even the pain feels worth it. He believed we suffer most not from what happens, but from our refusal to face what's already happening. Discomfort isn't the villain, it's the mirror. It shows you what you're resisting. And comfort? Comfort is just resistance. Dressed up in luxury. You think you're escaping pain, but you're just choosing a different kind. The quiet ache of wasted years. The dull throb of unused potential. The guilt that comes from numbing out when presence was possible. So what now? You choose. Today, right now, trade avoidance for awareness. Trade convenience for clarity. Trade the whisper of, this is fine, for the roar of, I want more. Next time you reach for your phone to scroll away your thoughts, pause, just for a minute. Ask, what am I trying not to feel? When you reach for comfort food, say yes just to keep the peace or zone out during conversations that should matter. Ask yourself, what truth have I silenced today? Because change. It's not one big life makeover. It's 100 tiny rebellions, cold showers, awkward conversations, early mornings, honest answers over warm lies, micro movements, mini uprisings. Every time you choose discomfort, you're choosing to become the kind of person who can hold pain without collapsing. You don't need comfort to be whole. You don't need certainty to move forward. You need one thing, the guts to sit in the fire and smile, because now you know. The fire was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to burn away everything that isn't you. Let that land. This world will keep selling you comfort. It's easy. It's profitable. It's addictive. But if you've made it this far, you're not here for ease. You're here to remember who you were before the noise, before the fear, before the trades. And here's the wild truth. It's not too late. Every second you're alive is another chance to say no more. Not this time. Not at the cost of my soul. The next part of this video isn't just content, it's a reclamation. We're going to rebuild your relationship with discomfort, not as something to endure, but something you can trust. We're going to break the habit of negotiating with comfort and start honoring the edge of your own evolution. This isn't hype, it's armor. Mental shifts that hold when everything else falls apart. If you've ever wanted to break free, really free, this next part is everything, because you're still here, which means something inside you didn't flinch, didn't scroll, didn't run. Something inside you whispered, I'm done making those trades. That voice, that's everything. Most people mute it. They flinch when truth shows up unfiltered. They scroll past the mirror, not because they're weak, but because they've never been shown another way. So let's be the ones who stay. Let's finish the story. Let's learn how to hold the discomfort and not disappear. Because that's the shift. People talk about discomfort like it's romantic, like it's aesthetic. But when it finally shows up, raw and ugly and uninvited, they panic. They reach for the nearest distraction, and slowly they go back to sleep. But not you. You're not here to feel better. You're here to feel better. Feel grief without collapse. Feel shame without self-destruction. Feel rejection without rewriting your worth. Feel emptiness without running from yourself. Feel boredom without a screen to sedate it. This is the emotional muscle you were never taught to build, but have to if you ever want to be free. Schopenhauer didn't believe in escaping suffering. He believed in transcending it by knowing it's not the pain that's killing you, it's the idea that you shouldn't feel it. What if that idea was the lie? What if the person who feels deepest isn't broken, but ready? Let's end on this. Discomfort is not chaos. Discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is data. Now let's use it. You know that tight feeling in your chest when you're in a room that doesn't feel right? That's not anxiety. That's your body whispering, you don't belong here anymore. That restlessness, that boredom, that's not laziness. That's evolution. And the exhaustion you feel after pretending to be smaller just to be liked, that's your soul saying, I'm done shrinking. Even your craving for comfort, it's not weakness. It's just a signal. Something inside still doesn't feel safe. Discomfort is always trying to speak to you, but most people, they never shut up long enough to hear it. They react, they scroll, they snack, they shrink, they shop, they sleep, and before they realize it, they've built a life made entirely of exits, escape after escape, door after door, but no arrival. But you're still here. So let's talk about what most people never do. Staying. Staying isn't passive. It's a skill. When discomfort rises, don't label it. Don't fix it. Don't moralize it. Just pause, breathe, feel, then ask, what is the sensation trying to teach me? That pause, those 3 seconds, that is the birthplace of every transformation you will ever experience. In that breath, your patterns start to crack. Your nervous system starts to rewire. Your truth finally gets a voice. And your power begins. Now let's get tactical, because this isn't just some motivational montage. Here's a tool, simple, sharp, the reversal frame. Next time you feel the urge to numb out, scroll, snack, overshare, overwork, don't ask, how can I feel better right now? Ask this instead, what will feel better 1 year from now? That question rewrites your life, because the pain you dodge today becomes the weight you carry tomorrow. But the discomfort you choose today, that's compound interest on your character. Every time you say no to the couch and yes to the gym, every time you choose to journal instead of scroll, silence instead of stimulation, you're not just being disciplined. You're becoming someone else. Someone who doesn't wait for permission, who doesn't chase peace, because they are peace. Not peace as a feeling, not peace as an outcome, peace as a practice. True peace isn't what you feel when the noise stops. It's what you create when the chaos rages and you don't run. Let me say it again because this is where everything clicks. Peace is not freedom from discomfort. Peace is mastery within it. When you can hold the heat without flinching, without numbing, without backing down, you become dangerous, not violent, but unshakable. You don't need validation. You don't need the illusion of ease. You've trained in discomfort. You've stayed in the storm. You've watched your fear rise, and you didn't move. That's not average. That's not normal. That's rare. Now live like it. Before this day ends, take one uncomfortable action. One. Not because you feel ready, but because you're done living like you're not. And when it hurts, smile because now you know pain isn't the punishment, it's the permission.